Welcome to our highly anticipated webinar on the booming integration of artificial intelligence and human resource management platforms. We're thrilled to have a distinguished panel of HR professionals here today to shed light on transformative power of AI in the workplace and discuss its profound implications for roles and responsibilities. In recent years, the field of HR has witnessed a rapid evolution in the advent of AI technologies, revolutionizing the way organizations attract, select, and develop talent. This webinar aims to delve into the intricate ways in which AI is reshaping HR practices and explore challenges and opportunities it presents to HR professionals like yourself. Throughout this session, our esteemed panelists will share their firsthand experiences, insights, and expertise in leveraging AI to optimize valuable aspects of HR management. We will explore how AI enhances talent acquisition, streamlines employee onboarding, training, arguments on performance evaluation, and feedback processes that foster diversity, inclusion, much more. So we do have a report for you. We conducted a survey of over 100 professionals to ask them what the state of artificial intelligence is in human resource management for their organizations. We found a lot of valuable resources there, and we think that you're going to find this very, very useful. This report is tailored for global business leaders, providing them with concise and actionable insights to leverage transformative power in AI in HR. And so I will get started by introducing our speakers today. We have three wonderful speakers from Purdue Global, Carrie Stringham, Dr. Jack McCann, and Dr. Rob Freeborough. Carrie is currently the professor of human resources for School of Business and Information Technology at Purdue Global. Carrie's doctorate is in organizational leadership, and she holds a Master of Science in Administrative Studies. Jack teaches various graduate courses in human resource management programs. McCann joined Purdue Global first as an adjunct faculty member and is now a full-time faculty member and course lead. And Rob teaches undergraduate and graduate human resources and management courses at Purdue Global and serves as lead faculty for human resource courses. Welcome to our speakers, and thank you for joining us today. All right, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is launch a poll, and this is a really easy question.
Yes, our first question is, are you using AI in HR today? As you're typing that out and clicking on the choices there, I thought I'd share a little bit of data with you. Of course, we're talking about AI, so data is very relevant, but in a study of 8,370 employees, managers, and HR leaders across 10 countries, it was actually determined that 64% of people trust a robot more than their manager. It's kind of hard to believe, but people actually do put trust in things like robots. And we're going to talk a lot today about challenges of using AI and many other parts of using AI, but I think you'll find that more and more people are using AI. In fact, in another study, 50% of workers are now currently using some form of AI at work compared to 32% last year. So it's rapidly increasing. And I think you'll find that more and more of your colleagues, and especially those who are HR leaders, are employing AI in many different ways in their roles. So what are the results of our poll here? Yes, so it's 38% are using and 62% are not using. So maybe a little bit different than the study that I saw, where it's 50% of workers that are using it. But I think that's at least 1 out of every 3 people that are here today are using AI already. So that's pretty amazing considering how quickly it's starting to increase.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into some of our conversation today. I really wanted to ask, first of all, what makes AI in HR such a hot topic, and why is this blowing up so suddenly? We came up with some ideas ourselves, and I kind of want to explore this a little bit more. Carrie, I'm going to take this over to you first. There were concerns in academia, which is where you guys come from. Why is there such a concern there?
Mm. Uh, the biggest concern is that there are instances where students are using AI to write entire papers. It's been used for entire theses. People have used it to write entire dissertations. And we see it on a small scale and a large scale. A 250 word requirement for something might generate a 100% AI score. And this really negates the whole purpose for learning, because these students are putting information into the AI tool and they're getting this finished product that they are passing off as their own, because they're not giving credit to the AI tool, and they're not doing the research, which is another way that they can end up with more knowledge about any topic that we present. So we do have some concerns for certain, that, and then I'm in the area of citing sources. We require that students include references and citations, and we are finding that a lot of times AI will include references and citations, but when we look for the actual work that the reference came from, we're unable to find it. So it created a reference and inserted a citation, which makes the paper or the submission look nice, but it doesn't give it the credibility that it needs. So there are definitely concerns around the use of AI in academics, and some of that kind of bleeds over into HR, but there's so many advantages too, and I'm looking forward to talking about those.
Awesome. We also noticed that we also talked about how automating complex tasks was going to is a really hot topic for HR. Jack, let me take this over to you. How has the integration of AI impacted daily tasks and responsibilities for HR professionals?
Well, the sum of all knowledge is, of course, online now, and many are excited in HR and business about the potential of AI to assist people at work. And who wouldn't want a high-powered assistant helping us with our work? So we have to look at what is the value of AI to your organization and your job. So automating complex tasks is where it's at, making the worker experience that much better, and having that high-powered assistant beside you is what AI, I think, is all about. You know, within the first couple of months with Chat GPT's released, 100 million users were activated and used Chat GPT just out of interest. And of course, CEOs want to know if they should act now or how they should start. How do they use this opportunity to beat the competition and to gain more customers through the use of artificial intelligence? And it can be used to automate, augment, accelerate, and enhance your work, classifying, editing, summarizing, answering, creating drafts, you name it. It's generating a new context to find data and create information for us on our job.
And of course, more productivity means more money for the company.
Absolutely.
And that's the bottom line, right?
That's it.
And Robert, we talked about having multiple tech tools. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for HR?
Well, it's certainly a good thing in most respects. I mean, having more data and being able to dive deeper into performance metrics, for example, could be really helpful to us. And maybe AI can see things that the average person can't see. But I also think there's a challenge with that as well, in that perhaps, and I think one reason why AI is a hot topic now is, what if AI actually replaces some of the roles in HR and people's jobs get displaced and you're replaced by a robot? That certainly is a real challenge and a legitimate question for those who are in HR. Will we be replaced by something that's artificial? And so I'm sure we'll talk more about that today.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. We are going to talk about ethics. We're going to expand on this topic a little bit more. And I believe, Carrie, you're going to take over part of this conversation.
Sure. In the area of ethics, we have concerns, of course, around privacy. This is ongoing in all areas of HR. Definitely something that we want to be aware of. Certainly, we can end up in situations where the data is compromised, or where individuals have access to data that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. So we need transparency around AI use. This really fits with security too. When it comes to fairness, we want to make certain that people, again, know when AI is being used. This is important. We see it now more than any other place in human resources in the area of recruitment. And so when we're recruiting employees, even those candidates, really, we want transparency around the way that we are moving them through the process. We need to cross-reference any of the AI sources that we have and understand that there's a degree of limited knowledge that's out there. And although AI can amalgamate all of that knowledge that we're pulling from, there are going to be cases where the information is going to hold biases. And that's a concern in the area of fairness as well.
Do you think there's going to be tools that will help to provide transparency and fairness in AI algorithms? Or do you think it's just something that will be consequential where companies are waiting until laws are passed that force them to do this?
I think we'll see a little bit of both. Those of us who've been in HR for a while can remember when FMLA came out. And the FMLA came out, it was presented to us, we were told what we needed to do, and we tried to do it, but there was really no interpretation. There had been no case law around it, and we didn't really have all the information that we needed to address all of our FMLA issues appropriately. And over time, through legislation, through different things that happen in the court system, through clear information from governmental agencies, we ended up with the information that we needed to really be able to effectively administer FMLA in our organizations. And I really think the evolution of AI is going to be on par with that. We need to wait and see, even though we'd like all of the answers right now. And I think that it will evolve. We'll see more tools, more information about how we can use it appropriately, where we can and can't use it appropriately. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you so much for that. That was very insightful. I think we're going to go to another poll question. Rob, you have another question for our audience today?
What do you think AI is going to be used for in human resources? And so as we look into the future, while you're typing in your answer, feel free to just type in a short answer of whatever you feel like would be best. I have looked up another statistic that I think is really valuable here. According to Fortune Business Insights, the global HR technology market is projected to grow from $24 billion from last year to $36 billion in 2028. So in just about 6 years' time, it's going to grow at least by 50%. So quite a lot more people are going to be using this as we look forward to the future. And so we'd love to hear from you. What do you think AI is going to be used for in HR? And obviously, some of those things we're going to talk about today, but probably the most important one is to automate tasks and do things that are repetitive or things that we don't want to do over and over and over. Mm-hmm. So let's see what the answers are.
We have answer employee questions, prepare presentations and assistant processes, CV triage, used for recruitment, job descriptions, communication and engagement strategies, and finally for data analysis. Address in-house inquiries and benefit-related questions, automate tactile processes to free up time for strategic tasks. These are all really great. This is probably a wish list, right? I should get this to our product engineers. Recruiting, resume review, administration, payroll, and benefits. So there's a lot of responses in here, a lot of it around data, recruiting, career path and development is another good one. FAQs chatbot, which is something that we do have already in our system. Writing emails, job descriptions, and sifting through potential clients. Let's talk about some of these trends and possibilities that are happening here in HR.
Starting with strategic applications then, before I get into this, I really want to challenge the 62% of you who were honest about not really delving at all into AI yet. I know that myself, I first heard all the negative hype around it, and I heard people talk about how, it was going to, be the end of civilization, and all of these things that were going to happen. And I resisted for a really short period of time, but then I decided, I need to understand this. We know that in human resources, we're on the front end of so many things, and an understanding of AI is really so important. I challenge you to go ahead and get a free account in ChatGPT and just play with it. Just play with it. Even if you only take a half hour, just play with it. You're not going to break anything, and you're going to be able to see some of the wonderful things that you can do with the simple ChatGPT tool. So over that 62%, I would hope that if we do the survey again in another 2 or 3 days, that would be down to 10%, because it won't take much of your time and it will be so worth it. This technology has some wonderful applications. With that in mind, when we look at strategic applications in human resources, we can use it in all areas of human resources. I identified the 8 major areas of human resources, and then I went in and I looked at each of those areas to assess how it could be used. I came up with a long list in each of the areas. And in most cases, it wasn't a wish list. In most cases, it's reality right now, if you know where to go to get the information and how to tap into it. We see it especially for data analysis, automation of tasks. We see it in the area of improved customer experiences and overall business optimization. So definitely great opportunities for strategic application.
And what about for leaders? What are leaders of leaders?
So leaders of leaders, if you're a leader and you've got other leaders working with you or under you, there are so many tools out there for training and development. In fact, AI will recommend specific courses or training to fill a gap if you identify that gap, or if it identifies that gap. It can conduct skills assessments. There are tools for performance improvement plans. It is a rock star for the narrative part of performance evaluations. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm assuming that, like me, you end up having to crank out a whole bunch of those suckers, usually within a really tight time period. And you're struggling to come up with unique phrases and ways to describe things. You can feed that information into AI. It will come up with a beautiful narrative that you are able to further polish before it goes to an employee. Data analysis, predictive analysis, it can provide you with a greater automation and efficiency, and it can assist with strategic planning and forecasting. It can really do some wonderful things. I see something in the chat area. I am suggesting, although I am not legal counsel, you can tell I've spent way too much time in human resources because I always have my little disclaimer. Yes, I do suggest that it's disclosed from a privacy standpoint. And I think we're going to see that become a requirement over time. But yes, I would suggest it's disclosed, answering the question in the chat area.
So that also goes with our next section, trends and possibilities is for recruitment. How has AI influenced the recruitment and selection process?
This is probably the biggest area where we've seen AI influence human resources as a whole. I know many of you have been using directly or indirectly AI technologies in your recruiting processes. It can automate tasks. It can sort resumes. It can help you generate interview questions. It can automate parts of the evaluation process. It can provide you with workforce planning tools. It can help you look at the trends so that you're better able to recruit and staff in your organizations. Can provide personalized responses. Sometimes those responses are better written than what we'd be able to do on our own. It can match candidate skills with specific jobs. And I won't get started on the gig economy. All I will say is that projections tell us that we're going to have more gig workers in the next several years than we even have regular full-time employees. And with that in mind, AI can help companies find the right gig employees. And then it can also do very simple things like search for tag words instead of for certain certifications or degrees in the recruiting process. So I could give you 15 other examples, but I'll let us move on.
Thank you so much for that. That was very informative. Recruitment is a very large part. It's probably one of the first places, right, that AI was inserted into these technologies. What about, right alongside that is onboarding. How does onboarding, AI help with onboarding?
I'd be glad to tackle this one. I don't know if you realize, but about 40% of new employees quit within the first year of being hired. And so that really underscores how important it is to have a good onboarding process. And of course, AI can really help with that. We can do all kinds of things to make the process smoother, more personalized. We have, of course, chatbots that can guide new employees through the onboarding process, maybe answer questions that they have, provide information and prompts. We can also even calculate the likelihood of a candidate to accept a job offer, project their performance, and even estimate their expected tenure. So these are things that are really helpful when we make decisions about our future. We can also automate delivery and receipt of all kinds of paperwork. Most of us are probably using that now, where you have to sign contracts or read employee handbooks and then sign them electronically. So that removes the need for HR professionals to have to do all this stuff manually. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, it can be done 24/7 as well. So rather than just depending on being there 9 to 5, we can have this all done electronically whenever it is most convenient for that new employee to get it done. We can shorten time to productivity as well. We can recommend job-related learning based on a new employee's resume, based on the role that they're taking on. We can offer books or workshops. We can do all kinds of things that tailor their new learning and development and that process to help them really get up to speed a lot quicker than maybe we would have if we were just doing it without AI.
I see. And it sounds like, with the gig economy, with the global workforce, that onboarding is going to be more important, where you can't always be there face to face with your employees, every single one of them. You're going to have to rely on technology in order to get some of these tasks done. And the same goes with retention, right? Whenever it comes to retaining your employees, how is AI going to help a HR professional keep and maintain their employees?
Well, we have to look at some of the reasons why people leave their jobs. And a lot of that's because they don't have certain things that keep them engaged. And what we can do with AI is we can personalize training. We can make sure that there is a database career path that each employee can take instead of, say, the standard generic focus that they might have without AI. So we can track their learning preferences. We can track their skills gained. We can make sure that the knowledge that they need, not just for this role, but for perhaps future promotions and future roles in the company, that AI can help with that learning. Mm-hmm. We can have curated career development recommendations that adjust even to organizational changes, where it basically is showing that we're investing in their careers by using AI to customize their progression through the company. Mm-hmm. And so I think that makes a big difference. Employees are much more likely to stay in a company that shows they care about them and uses tools like this to invest in their careers.
So, quick question, can AI predict when there's going to be employee turnover or if there's a flight risk?
Absolutely. AI can use metrics to look at a person's skills, their roles, what's going to be needed in the future, whether they're prepared for that, and hopefully look ahead and say, okay, this employee is really going to need this new learning and development, so that when they get to this place in their career or this place in their role, they have what they need. We've worked ahead of time and been proactive, as opposed to a lot of times we're just reactive, and an employee can just stagnate in a role and not really be prepared for what's coming. And this, of course, helps with succession planning as well.
Right. Well, thank you for that. Performance management, you've been touching on this a lot. I know it's very hard for some HR professionals to be able to track that. How is performance management tracked with AI, and what are those measurements?
Well, of course, we can use AI and performance evaluations to track all the important metrics that a company deems as important. And so as we use those metrics, we can predict how that employee can do in the future. We can use this with goals as well and use AI to help employees write goals so that we maximize their performance and maximize their ability to not just stay in a role, but to really thrive in it and prepare them for the future.
Right. And that employee engagement is very important just for the health of the company, the health of the employee. Of course, we all want everybody's well-being to be, intact. For employee engagement, do you feel like there are any concerns about personalization or having an empathetic approach when dealing with employee engagement?
Personalization today is the real key in trying to reduce the friction at work in terms of making sure that workers have a good experience. So engaging with employees is critical. It's a complex issue, quantifying human performance metrics and what it takes to make a good employee. Human decision-making versus artificial intelligence is if we keep humans in charge of artificial-based human resource tools, we stand a better chance of engaging our employees. The experience is the key in employee engagement today.
I see. And I have a question here in the chat. Can you speak about discrimination or bias in the AI structure? If data pulls from majority culture experiential data, how does it impact the minority culture experiences? Does anyone have any feedback for discrimination and bias in AI?
Well, I think one thing that can happen is if the algorithms are written with biased data, or maybe the variables within the AI program is inherently, if they're inherently discriminatory in any way, then we can't eliminate bias. But I do think that it certainly can help, because as we write these, we're going to use a lot of tools that are already created to reduce bias. So it is possible to discriminate even using AI. But I do think that it minimizes the risk of that. And it's a overall net positive in the direction of not being discriminatory in any way and not being biased.
Let me jump in here. Artificial intelligence should be built in the organization and managed ethically. You don't make it mainstream in your organization and really begin these programs and then tack on ethics. Ethics needs to be at the forefront, and these considerations of diversity and inclusion are important. We have to be vigilant in HR about the ethical use of AI technology. So it needs to be up front and built in as we go and not later on as an afterthought.
That's a good point. And one of the questions in our chat actually, is there a difference between technology and AI? The example of DocuSign is not really an AI feature. Is that true? So the technology that you use within HR platforms, right? They're software that's developed in order to help you produce or to produce tasks within your role. AI is layered on top of it and allows you to provide formulated responses or to obtain information that you didn't have right off the bat. So it could be used as a search bot. It could be used to summarize your feedback, or it could be used to summarize paragraphs of information that you've given it, as well as analyze data. So the difference is there is some functionality with AI that's laid on top of the tasks that you already have. You're asking AI to complete these tasks using logic. And so that AI is going to pull up what it can based on the information that you give it. So yes, there are some limitations, but it is different from just the regular technology. And Jack, do you have anything to add to that, or would you agree?
Oh, technology, HR technology today is attracting some of the most innovative technologists in the world today, because there's so many opportunities, I think, here. The thing that we have to think about, data automation is not evil. And, it's the growing adoption of AI has attracted a lot of scrutiny from lawmakers and industry, but it's such an opportunity as we go forward to identify the ways that we can use it. So AI and its technology is going to advance. And with this attraction of all these experts into the field, it's going to be exciting to see what the developments are in the future.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to our next one that we have for trends and possibilities is compensation and benefits. How is AI going to affect that?
Oh yeah, it's with compensation and benefits, it's about numbers, but it's also about people and data and their information. And so keeping data secure is going to be the key here with compensation and benefits. And it's a movement toward increased transparency about how artificial intelligence works in the organization in HR. We can identify and analyze and allocate budgets through compensation and benefits. Again, it's about trying to develop metrics that we can use to analyze performance of employees. And we need to keep, the humans in charge of artificial intelligence in many respects and put artificial intelligence to work as an enhancement tool for us in terms of these compensation benefits. I think it's certainly a time saver. It's going to provide, the technology and tools that we can use to increase our ability to do a better job with managing compensation benefits. Of course, benefits are outsourced oftentimes, and employees can use artificial intelligence to find information about their benefits and compensation information. And that's very helpful for the employees. So compensation benefits, it's going to certainly enhance what our employees can see and what they can use, as well as what it can do in terms of time saving for us in HR and compensation.
And I know this has been a very hot topic with how, again, with the biases, with making sure that, males and females are paid equally. This AI
Absolutely.
will help to be able to analyze all of that data and make sure that the company is staying true to their values and vision for the people that they
Very good point. We have to, in order to be able to use artificial intelligence, data has to be readily available to be used by artificial intelligence, and to really capture those benefits, as you're mentioning, to make sure that we're complying with the laws and complying with good practice. We've got to make sure that our data is ready to use in artificial intelligence. And that's where these technology practitioners are going to being attracted to HR is going to help us create better software.
Thank you for that comment. You're absolutely right. Learning and development has been another big section. With AI, it seems like our learning might just change again. One of the things that was very pivotal about the internet age is that internet has taught us to look for information and has not taught us how to store information. How do you think AI is going to change our learning and development in the future?
I think that we're moving from the learning management system, even though it still has its place, where you can find data intake classes and so forth in the structured environment, but it's moving more toward a user-friendly, personalized approach to learning management in terms of digital learning. It's going to be more part of the workflow instead of just interrupted transactional learning. It's going to be part of the workflow. And as people need those trainings to get up to speed, it's going to be available and analyzed and shown and even suggested to managers, employees as to what they may need to take part in as things change in the organization, because we're always concerned about what's going on in the future. We want to have a trained workforce prepared for not only today, but in the future. And learning and development tools today, if we make those as part of the workflow and really plug those into where we're going as an organization and tie those to objectives and the mission and vision of the organization, we're going to do a better job of preparing us to compete in the markets of the future.
I agree. And I think that as these especially when you have a platform that manages employee skills, being able to match that up with the educational piece, then finding what parts of that educational gaps that they have and filling that in rather than having them start from scratch or having to do a whole program that maybe they don't necessarily need. So it saves time.
Many programs as opposed to long-term classrooms and so forth, certifications, many training tools to help specifically with jobs and tasks.
And of course, there's just regular administration as trends and possibilities. We've talked about this a lot, about the automating simple tasks and being able to help free up people's time and energy to focus on the people there within those organizations. I'm going to move us along.
Absolutely.
We have about 15 minutes left. I really want to talk about this next section, which is pretty interesting because AI, we talk so highly of it, but we all know that AI has faults. And one thing that we have seen is how artificial intelligence has created art, but not necessarily the best type of art. So I wanted to give you just some really funny examples I found on the internet today of artificial intelligence, giving us a picture of a giraffe with two heads, two necks. Other images come out completely wrong where AI can't determine what's the front or the back of a body. So they just kind of stick a head wherever they feel like it. And of course, artists struggle with this as well. AI is no different. The finger problem. Artists have such difficulty creating fingers sometimes, and apparently AI does too. So let's talk about the risks, the issues and the warnings that we see with AI and how we need to move cautiously into the future. One of the first things we talked about was hallucinations within AI. Jack, I believe you were going to take this one on.
Yes, I think you showed some of the hallucinations in your pictures that certainly are exhibited by artificial intelligence use. And of course, what's well known is that artificial intelligence will make up data and information and attribute to sources that really weren't part of the research itself. So hallucinations are something that are occurring, as we do artificial intelligence research and with the use of it. And the cautions there is that, keep your humans in charge of your artificial intelligence and screen the information that you gather and use, because it's going to be incumbent upon you and your organization to make sure that any data and things that you share as a business to the public is correct and is monitored. Because you look at the recent lawsuits against Google and Microsoft, they're hit with a class action suit. Both of them have been recently because of data scraping using public data and, to train their artificial intelligence bots. And does Google own everything on the internet? So, you want to make sure you give your sources credit and you monitor and ethically use it.
So storytelling, artificial intelligence is storytelling as well. How does that impact the use of the tool?
With storytelling, it's going to pull data that may or may not be correct. So we have the issue of fact versus fiction. And that can be a concern. We also talked briefly about how it doesn't always get things right. With the citations and the references, we see that some of those can end up being made up. So in the area of storytelling, it can be a great tool to help you with the storytelling process, but we need to keep in mind that there are going to be limitations with that. There are limitations with everything, but definitely limitations with AI.
How do we compare this to past world events?
Innovations and automations have transformed HR's role from World War II, the paper record keeping and posting ads in newspapers and sending documents, via couriers to the fax machine and the internet. And today, chatbots are being used to screen candidates and answer applicants' questions, as well as, cloud-based HR technology platforms now house employee data technology, transforming our HR roles, to one more from a transactional approach of the past, as well as to more a strategic one in today's organizations. And in HR, we've advanced from PeopleSoft technologies, cloud technologies, and now software as a service to more of a human capital management system. This is, HR and AI is such a change. We're looking at 80% of U.S. jobs being affected, just like the Industrial Revolution. 80% of U.S. jobs are going to be affected by artificial intelligence and change most of the tasks for 20% of our workers. And thankfully, it won't take over these jobs, but hopefully enhance and improve, just like the enhancements of the cell phone and the computer and the Industrial Revolution that really improved our lives and made things hopefully better for us as a society and a world.
Right. And with that comes human reasoning. The whole reason why AI is probably not going to take over people's jobs is because human reasoning comes into a play here. Carrie, what do you have to say about that?
Well, AI does not have wisdom, not wisdom in traditional human sense, at least. It does not have the ability to think or to adapt, and it does not have intuition. And those are things that we're not seeing with the AI tool. I was looking at some of the questions in the question Q&A area, And Sam posed a good one and shared a good example of how we can end up in a situation where a human really wants another human. They don't want to interact with AI. They don't want to interact with a chatbot. And I think that organizations are going to have to find ways to balance that out. Maybe those quick, easy answers, but then referred to a human, or maybe a way to make it so that the process seems a little bit less sterile. I agree. There are times when definitely, I know that I'll get frustrated when I have to go through 6 steps in order to get to a human, and one of those involves a chatbot. So there are going to need to be ways that organizations recognize where the tools work and where they don't.
Thank you for that input. I think we have one more question left before you go. So for all of our participants that are still with us, Robert has another question he would like to ask you guys.
Yes. What are some human resources challenges that you anticipate as a result of AI? And as you're answering that, just a quick story to back up what we were just talking about. I was in an airport in a foreign country last year. I got to about 30 minutes before my flight was supposed to take off, and it was canceled. Well, it was with a budget airline. And so all of us at the gate were scrambling to try to figure out how can we leave. I was automatically rescheduled for 6 days later. So I couldn't get out of there for another 6 days. So I had to call the airline. Well, it's a budget airline. And so I got a chat bot. I just got a robot that was answering questions. I could never get to a human being. So I went online. Same thing happened. I couldn't ever get to a human being. And that lack of human interaction made me swear I will never fly with that airline again. I ended up not being able to get hold of the airline for another 24 hours. So I had to actually buy a ticket on a different airline. I finally got home, and that's when I had to handle my refund and everything else. So there are some challenges, and we can definitely say that AI is helpful, but at the same time, there's just sometimes that we need to talk to a human being. So on Carrie's point about AI does not have human wisdom. So I think that's really important. What are the results of our poll here?
Let's see, misinformation. The internet is already filled with misinformation, and which is some of the foundation of AI, presenting data that leads to wrong decisions, making the HR department non-existent, data security or loss of human interaction. Most of it has been mitigated in this talk. I was worried about my team's job security, including mine. Well, I'm really glad we helped to answer some of those questions for you. Not accurate results or misleading information. So, everyone's having the same results. The same expectations and worries. Empathy is another one that was here. Or it's hard to test AI with security concerns. Entering confidential data into AI engine at this point just can't design and implement HR practices like AI. So I completely understand that is another one of the concerns, is that for sure. We're going to take it to Q&A. We have a couple of questions are already in here. So Laura just asked, I'm curious how employee engagement would be used to engage versus being used to note observations from the data. How will AI differ from things like engagement surveys, etc.? Does anyone want to take this one?
I'll be happy to take this one. Really, I see it as being supplemental. So I have seen the AI tool used to create some wonderful thought-provoking questions and information to put into an employee survey. The tool itself can look at information that you maybe have from a past survey, or information that you have that you're feeding into it from concerns maybe that management has. You can go at it a whole bunch of ways, and the tool will help you generate thoughtful questions and questions that are going to give you data that will hopefully be helpful to you. The other thing it can do is really analyze the data, and it will analyze the data differently than you or I would. It's going to look at it very matter-of-factly, objectively. That's good and that's bad. So we need to supplement that with that human component. But it can make a difference, and it can provide us with insights and even tools that we otherwise wouldn't have.
Thank you, Carrie. Another question we have in our Q&A is, where's the best place to stay on top of AI laws? Does anybody have a resource? Okay, so that's SHRM, right? So
Okay.
SHRM is a great place
What,
until
Jack? Just I noticed in some of the comments about technology and using AI in your organization, you have to examine first, do you have the expertise in your organization to actually use artificial intelligence? Again, you have to have ready to use artificial intelligence data, and you have to have your structure and a strategy in place. You have to build those technical capabilities in your organization and upscale your workforce to be able to use artificial intelligence.
Exactly. What are some of the more common AI tools available for HR? I'm going to do a little plug. Well, Engagedly does have a AI tool within our own product that we use for feedback, for summary, for 360 feedback, and for goals. And we also have a chatbot within our product that allows you to ask questions such as, where's the employee handbook for my company? Or where can I find my benefits information? Or you can even ask it, how many hours of sleep should I get every night? And then Marissa AI will answer for you. So that is, those are a tool for Engagedly. And does anybody else have suggestions for AI tools available for HR?
Jacqueline, are we going to have an opportunity to see that tool in action, the piece that you have from Engagedly?
Unfortunately, not today.
Okay.
We will send out a link in the email though for demos. So if anybody really wants a personalized demo for AI in our platform in Engagedly, we'll be happy to walk you through a personalized demo, and I'll send that out after this call.
Thank you. Thank you. We see tools in every area. We see them. We talked already about recruiting and staffing, employee benefits to generate benefit statements. We see them to automate tasks. We see them in the area of employee compensation to write narratives, to pull data, to pull resources. You can discover some of that too, even by just signing up for the free ChatGPT and asking it some of the common questions that you would have in your role as an HR professional. In the area of employee and labor relations, we see engagement surveys and analysis of those results. We see it with human resource compliance to answer frequently asked questions, like the tool, Jacqueline, that you were just talking about, that you have available through Engagedly. And with the organization structure, we see giving HR a bit of a competitive edge because we can get down to the numbers a little bit easier, and the use of numbers does give human resources increased credibility in our organizations. We see it used in payroll. We see it used in training and development. So I would be able to go into deep detail in each of those areas about all the tools that are available. So that's a loaded question.
Well, we have a ton of questions and there's still more to answer. I'll try to get to these after this call, but I will make sure that anybody who's put their name in the chat gets a response from us. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to Carrie, Robert, Jack, and Deborah from Purdue Global for joining us today and providing this information. We hope this answered your questions, relieved some of your fears, and gets you thinking about how to be strategic with AI in HR. I hope everyone has a great day and goodbye.